Public Safety and Justice to order. Can I first get a motion for the approval of the minutes? Member Phelan, and a second, Member Daly. Thank you. Go ahead and vote. All right, motion passes. Thank you. We will move on to our informational items. We don't have anybody here from the ETSB today. We'll move on to, actually, Becky, if you just want to go second, we could do that with the resolutions. We will pull up the coroner's office.
Hello. No, just kidding. Thank you for giving us an opportunity today. Ben and I just want to provide an update about where we're at today in the coroner's office, first of all, and then an informational item we have regarding toxicology that comes out of our office and what our intentions are. And we've been in quite a amount of communication between us and some of the board members about this, and we just want to present it out to you guys so you kind of know where we're at with our expense, revenues, what our goal is to continue to drive revenue, which is somewhat new for our office to have that as a part of a focus of what we do in our office, but we're doing really well. I've been to 2 different conferences over the last 3 weeks. I spoke at the AAC and Trauma Conference here in Peoria with an attendees of over 250 people. Very, very well received, where we get to tell people what we do, how we bring our youth into our office, to talk to them about drinking and driving, texting and driving, diverting pills, all those types of things, suicide prevention and whatnot. So speaking at the conference was great. And then the number of students that have come into our office this year, we've had well over 1,000 between the different school districts, which gives us an opportunity to talk about those things, which is so fun. I would say Chief Deputy Brewer here has probably taken about 65% of those classes and taught those to the students. So we have a great appreciation for him for doing that. Another thought. What else, Ben? We've really maintained really strict control over our expenses for this first quarter that we've been in. Our autopsy counts are significantly down comparatively to from last year. And again, we attributed that to our very, very well educated staff that we have on board. We worked very hard to get a really stable staff in our office, which we have done very significantly. And we all know that our autopsy cost is pretty significant, comes out of our office, and be able to reduce that, save our taxpayers, but also provide an evidence-based best practice death investigation is paramount to our operation. So leading into those autopsies, Ben is going to present a couple things that we have on the forefront. And it's one of our another large expense items out of our budget, which is toxicology. So our goal is to, since we've been accredited, is to figure out how we can use the evidence base of our accreditation to move forward and to be comparable with other offices across the United States. So,
absolutely. I think Board Member Ricker had asked how it was working out for our pathologists for autopsies, and right now, there's an informational sheet that we've got 118 autopsies today that we've posted throughout the year. Only 38 of those are Peoria County. So to ask how we're doing really well because the other counties are paying her salary. We're only paid 38 towards her salary this year, but the other counties we project out to the end of the year will be paying her salary. 70-30 is what I think it's going to end up being, because we've got an influx of out-of-county autopsies. We've added Bureau County, and we've got another county coroner that's on the horizon. Part of this accreditation is allowing us to go to market, so to speak, for other counties and show them how good we're doing things. So they'll bring business here, and every single one of those autopsies adds a morgue fee. It adds the fee for the pathologist to help pay our costs incurred. So we should be doing really well. So the last several years, and I know Heather's felt this pain a little bit with me, is that when we've been looking through toxicology expenditures, you could throw a dart anywhere you want, and anyone's guess is what's going to happen. Prices have been increasing, but also what's happened is, and this is sorry for my example, but it's like when you used to go out to a restaurant, you could get a steak and it came with other items, a baked potato, asparagus, whatever. Now all those items are a la carte, and so when we send somebody in for toxicology, they're like, "Oh, you want this test? Well, it's this price," and it's like, "Well, all used to be included in the same amount, and now they're adding on additionals." So a couple years ago, I would tell you that our average autopsy or a toxicology cost was about $210. Now they range all the way up to 400, 500. We had two cases last year where the toxicology was more expensive than the autopsy cost itself, which is just crazy. And so Sharon Williams, member Williams had said a while ago, looking at budgets and trying to figure out how to increase revenue and stop the expense is where we've been looking. And so last fall, Jamie and I prepared a grant to the Department of Justice for this exactly around trying to decrease the turnaround time for autopsy results. And some of these autopsies, when we give the preliminary preview, I guess, a preliminary result and say it's pending toxicology, that means we just have to wait for the toxicology company to send back those results to us. And so that could be, we say on the low end, 4 to 6 weeks. It could be as high as 8. And so really looking in that grant, we wrote a proposal to the Department of Justice to purchase an in-house machine that will not replace everything that we do, but it should, their best guess is at the lowest replace 50% of what we do in-house. But they think that it could go up to as high as 70, 80% of doing the things in-house for the price of this machine. And so really the goal today is there's a big packet that that you guys have, and I know that member Phelan and Chair Allison has this electronically, so I can share that electronically as well. But it just highlights what would happen if we purchased a machine and operated this in-house, similar to a business. We would be saving ourselves money on the talks that we send out, but we would also be charging out of counties, and so it would be revenue. And so this one-page informational sheet just shows year to date that out of 118 autopsies, Peoria County did 38 and the other counties did 80. It's cost the taxpayers of Peoria County so far this year a little over $10,000 to do this tox just for our own. And that's low because we've had a lower number this year than what we would typically be at. And that's just us, that 38. And so out of those, we looked at all the eligible cases that would be eligible to do in-house tox, and it's 21 out of the 38 cases for Peoria and 37 out of the 80 for out of county. And so we could save ourselves already, nearly $4,800 for Peoria County so far this year alone, but we would be charging those other counties for the tox. And so that would generate $6,600 in revenue from the other counties. That doesn't include the charge we have to pay for FedEx shipping out of the facility, and the charge emotionally for a family to wait 6 to 8 weeks for a result to come back that's going to come back in 35 minutes in the office. So having access to those results and being able to make a better timely decision that it's 35 minutes, we have a result, and we decide, hey, we need to do additional testing that we wouldn't know until it got to the service in Pittsburgh to figure out those costs. Those are the two forensic labs in the nation. One is in Pittsburgh, and I'm not sure where the other is at.
One of the things I want to add to that too, it's not just saving us, but our partner counties that come to us, it would also be saving them a ton of money too, where we're not sending their tox out that they have to pay for, as opposed to they're going to be paying us a smaller amount compared to what their total tox lines would be anyway. So it's a benefit for everybody, not just us.
Absolutely. And so we had asked, just present this as an informational item today, one in part that we are still pending the grant from the DOJ. I expect, hopefully, in the next couple weeks to find out yay or nay for that. But we didn't want to just spring this on you. And we also want to try to be attentive to budget season coming up around the corner. If we're going to ask for something now that is going to impact our revenues for next year or our expenses. We want to be able to have that going into budget season. So thought it was a good idea to get in front of you. We're still waiting. Last we heard from Congressman LaHood's office is that we're still in the queue being evaluated for that grant. So maybe that will happen. We won't need to come ask for this, but the ability to have the machine even this year and start collecting data to help us prepare for the budget better. I know at least one person would appreciate that. Hi, Heather. So happy to take any questions, but we're really working hard to try to reduce that turnaround and save the county some money.
Well, thank you for bringing this forward as an informational item. You mentioned budget season. We are doing some pre-budget meetings with those that report to Public Safety and Justice. So if you would maybe look at both revenues and expenses high level, and we'll get some meetings together so that the committee is better aware of the different funds we're looking at sometime in the next couple months. Nothing urgent there. Does anybody have any questions about? Oh yes, Member Phelan.
Yeah, more of just a comment. I wanted to say thank you both for putting this together, and it's frequent that we find out things on the floor and feel like we have to make an impulsive decision. So I appreciate the time and energy that went into this, and the steps that you guys followed even before you put it in front of Jennifer and I, such as meeting with finance and meeting with the administrator to discuss possible funding solutions. It's just nice that you guys recognize there was maybe not a problem, but something that could be improved on, and the level of energy that you guys put into creating a good solution. At the beginning, when Jamie was talking, I heard him compare his coroner's office to other coroner's office across the United States, and I think that really we're probably a coroner's office that people are looking at, and I just think that's really neat that we're leading the way on a lot of different things. So thank you.
Yes, Member Daley.
I also would like to commend you because I just think it's fabulous that you're trying to do a better job and you're very cognizant of being careful with taxpayer money. I mean, there's nothing that's better than that.
Member Renaud, did you have a question?
I did, thank you. Is this plug and play? Like, you plug it in, does it need a gas service, or is it going to like heat an area? Like you're going to have to cool it?
It's plug and play. It's a small machine. It's actually just a little bit bigger than like a multi-copier thing that does like scanning and whatnot, but just maybe a foot and a half wide. So no real big pull. We talked to sustainability just about the footprint that it might cause. So really nothing there. The machine can be updated on a dime, so as new drugs are coming forward, which they're always coming from, they can upgrade the machine and just do a remote program to say, hey, now we're going to look for this panel. And the device that we put in the machine for each sample is coded that way with a computer chip, so they can program all those. So not really anything we have to do. We put in there the life of the machine just to be fair that, hey, 8 to 10 years, but the manufacturer's saying, no, we have machines that are out there that are working for 13 or 14 years, but we just wanted to be fair in case, we're coming back 8 years down the road, like, what were you doing? And the other thing I want to mention is, as we talk to sustainability, we also reached out to the state's attorney criminal side just to say, is this going to cause any issues for you if it's coming from this lab versus another? The quick answer to that is that a lot of the cases that we're talking about, motor vehicle fatalities, overdoses, and so on, unless being criminally prosecuted, aren't going through the court system. But thanks to their homicides high level, we're still going to use the same lab we have today just to make sure that doesn't cause any issues. But this is an accredited lab as well. And so they're saying you can use that for the homicides. We've just found best practice that people are still sending those outside.
And for an example of Ben's point, if we have a motor vehicle fatality, by state statute, we're required to send a drug panel, which we send to our lab, and we wait 4 to 6 weeks for this panel to come back. We don't report on it, but this would be an opportunity to say, now we don't have to send those motor vehicle fatalities out, pedestrian struck by a car, or anything like that. We can actually do those in-house, which would be a huge savings, just for an example.
And didn't you also say, kind of to Rob's question, that there is an annual software update across the board?
It happens annually, but also each time these tests. So these kits are only good for about 12 weeks at a time. So we'd be very, careful about how we use them and whatnot. But they could update them just as soon as sending new devices out to us with the new samples, but no cost that we incur annually for it.
So no subscription for the
No,
new panels.
Where they make this up is those kits that they're selling you.
Hmm.
They're charging $35 a kit, so they're getting that cost every time. So that they're always going to get that every time you do a sample, but the machine is done on subscription.
But it continues to update
Yes,
as
yep,
available.
And they only have a 3-month shelf life.
I think it's 12 weeks, but we do enough of them that it wouldn't be an issue for us, and we can get them within the next day. So if we ran short, we'd be very careful about that. But
We try to run just in time on our supplies anyway, so we don't over order the depth. So
Mhm.
we're cognizant of that.
Member Ricker?
In your write-up and your comments, Ben, it's about 49% of the cases that this could apply to. Maybe can you give a little more substance behind it as to I don't know what options for machines are out there. Are there other options that would get you to 80%? Or again, that's not a field I understand, but I guess if we're spending X dollars for 49%, X plus X percent would get us to 80%. Or am I missing the concept totally?
This is the best one we had out there. Why we said we want to be extremely conservative. We try to do this when we're doing any budgeting. We think it's going to be closer to 70, but I didn't want to come to you and say 70% and then fall short. So we said 49, and I'm happy to come back later and say it was better than that. The other thing that we didn't talk about was that there are some things that we do that we could do locally with like our OSF lab or Carl Partners, which is the alcohol level testing. We don't use that today because we still have to send it out the door to this company, so we just have them do it all at once in one package. But those are some add-ons that we can do here locally if we need to, using our partners that we already have. There was no difference, and we asked the state attorney's office about that as well. Does that make a difference for you if our alcohol testing is coming from OSF, which is an accredited lab as well? So no big difference there. We think it's going to be a lot higher, but also as it's new to our pathologist, like I said, want to be conservative. But she said I'll probably end up using it for a lot more because when we initially looked at this a year ago, they've already upgraded panels and they're looking at drugs that are out in the area. I mean, there's one drug right now, I can remember if it's nitazine or something, but it's only found in 2 counties in the U.S. right now, and it's us in Tazewell County that they're seeing this drug pop up. So that company is monitoring with drug maps and saying, hey, this drug has come up, we're going to add this to our panel. But these are like the most frequently used drugs, and I think that right now it tests for 28 directly, and then there's metabolites of certain meds that are there for another 14. So it's really looking for, close to 40 of the most commonly used drugs.
Okay, yes, and Member Rosenbaum.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. How quickly can you get it? I mean, do they have them in stock? So if you order it, you get it in a couple of weeks, or is it a 6-month wait? Or how quickly could you implement it?
6 weeks was the time that we were given, and so with this and talking to Chair Allison and Member Phelan, that we wanted to make sure that we were looking at it ahead of time. It wasn't something we want to say, hey, we want to approve for January 1 because I'd lose out on that revenue, but also to set up charge codes with finance and try to do that, make it clean for them. We need a little bit of time, so we thought, well, maybe even this year, if we had some budget dollars left, we could allocate for it. But that's why we decided to come back and just talk through the group and see, if the grant doesn't come through, what are the options to try to give us a clean slate for 2027 to have it in place and be able to let those other counties that are also budgeting know, hey, this is what your cost looks like for next year.
Member Elsasser, did you have your hand up? Okay, all right. Any other questions on this informational item?
We really appreciate the support. Truly, I was always taught in leadership, you always hire people who are smarter than you. And I really want to give some appreciation to Ben for taking the lead on this. Yes, we work collaboratively with it. It's always one of our ideas about what can we do to make it better. But he's certainly done a lot of the footwork here. So I just want to say I appreciate it a lot. And if we don't get the grant, no, I'm totally kidding.
Well, thank you both.
Thank you.
We will ask our Public Defender's Office to come up next. And Kristen, you're welcome to join if you'd like.
Well, good afternoon.
Hello, thank
Kevin
you.
Lowe, the Chief Public Defender for Peoria County, and I'm here with Kristen Collins, our Office Manager. I've submitted my written report for first quarter of 2026, and you may have noted in there staffing. We've lost a couple of attorneys, unfortunately. We had a full-time attorney leave us, one of our entry-level personnel, Jake Wright. We were hopeful he was going to be with us for at least a year, but he found a different opportunity, so he moved on, unfortunately. We wish him well. We had a contractor, Sam Zabak, a felony contractor, who's been with us for a couple of years, and unfortunately, he also moved on. So we wish him well. Also, we are looking, again, of course, to hire additional attorneys. In fact, this upcoming 2 or 3 weeks, we have a couple of interviews lined up. So we're on the move, we're on the lookout, and fingers crossed for good things to come. So that brings us down from 19 in our last quarterly report down to 17 attorneys. Of those 17, 7 are full-time, 10 are contractors. On top of that, then we still have 4 non-attorney personnel. Our office manager, Kristen here, our receptionist, our paralegal, and our client advocate. So in other news, I was honored to be appointed twice by the Illinois Supreme Court to 2 committees. So in January, and actually this first one is I guess technically a task force, but it's a committee. They call it task force, I get. And I was appointed to the Illinois Judicial Conference, and they have a task force on restorative justice and community healing. So that is our task, and that's what we've been working on here since January. Very interesting work, and we're poised to make some recommendations to the Supreme Court by September of this year. The other one, also very, very interesting, just this past month in March, I was appointed by the Supreme Court to the FAIR Act Transition Committee. So you guys might recall the FAIR Act is the recent legislation that created the Office of the Statewide Public Defender. So Illinois will have a official statewide Office of Public Defense beginning January 1st. And I'm one of the 25-member committee that's going to essentially look at the transition and how to set up that office administratively, bureaucratically, budget-wise, all these issues that we have to look at. And I'm very proud. I'm one of 7 chief public defenders to be named to that committee statewide. So I'm honored. I'm humbled to be selected, and look forward to continued service to both the task force and the transition committee. And as usual, then I've also attached case statistics, caseload statistics, and current filings, and I think we have 7 or 8 total tables that I've attached. I'll go over some of this. I like to preface this, as usual, by saying I don't analyze the current quarter of my report. I analyze the one previous quarter. That's because with the passage of time, these numbers become more accurate. If I were to try to do quarter 1, if I did that last week instead of the fourth quarter of last year, we would have a good chunk of March that we haven't even gotten to those cases yet. They haven't had their arraignments or sometimes their first appearances, so we have no idea about their attorney status. And that's why I delay it. And we're looking at quarter 4, 2025, so the final quarter of last year. You look at those numbers in our felony division, oftentimes we consider that the most important, it's the most impactful type of cases to our community. In the fourth quarter of 2025, we had a total of 210 cases that were filed. We bring that down to a subtotal, and I've explained this before. I work on a subtotal because there's a big chunk of those cases that they go nowhere. They get filed, and they just sit there for a long period of time. And I've mentioned that before, and this time around, I decided I'd actually take a look at some of those cases, even to give you an idea of what those cases are. I looked at 187 cases across the board that had no affiliated or associated attorney information. And I looked at each individual case and I tabulated those results. So of the 187 cases, no surprise here, 81 of those cases were on warrant status. So if somebody's been charged with an offense, they don't show up to court for the first appearance and a warrant gets issued and they're just out to win. And so we don't know what's going to happen with the case. We have no idea about attorneys. If they're going to be PD, they're going to represent themselves. The other largest portion of that 187 were 73 cases. So that's 39% of that entire amount. And those were dismissed. So 73 cases just outright. They were filed, but for whatever reason, the state decided to dismiss them. Sometimes they're refiled. Sometimes maybe there's an evidence issue or a witness issue. 13 of those cases have been continued on to another court appearance for attorney appearance. We don't know what's going on with those cases. 14 of those cases were entered in error, so it's human error, and 14 that are listed as no attorney were actually public defense cases. So we have cases there that we are handling but are not under the public defender in our case management system. And then 5 of them are no true bill. In other words, they went to the grand jury. The grand jury looked at them and decided that they didn't have probable cause to issue an indictment. It's interesting to know what that portion of cases represents. So in any event, we go down to a subtotal. Here in the felony cases, the subtotal goes down to 174 cases. So I just call them the active cases, those that are moving forward. We have some idea what's going on with their attorney. Of those 174, the public defender was appointed 151 times. That represents 86.8% of the cases. Non-PD cases were 23, so 23 either representing themselves or private counsel, and that equates to 13.2%. And you can go down the line there in figure 1 and look at all of those, and it's similar type of figures. When you total up those 6 categories that I've got there, felony, misdemeanor, DUI, juvenile delinquency, domestic violence, criminal contempt, total all those up, a total of 862 cases were filed. We get down to a subtotal of 708 cases. Of those 708 cases, we were appointed to 614 of them during that quarter. That represents 86.7% of the cases. And the non-PD category is 94 cases. That's 13.3. And then in figure 1, you can also compare that to the same quarters, the fourth quarter of the year before, 2024. And once again, you'll see similar figures. I don't discern any particular trends in the data. The only trend, maybe juvenile-wise, we have been seeing perhaps an increase in juvenile transfers from the juvenile courts into the adult courts. Now, that's no surprise. If you follow the news, you see there's quite a lot of serious juvenile criminal activity being alleged out there. So it's not a surprise that a lot of it's being transferred to the adult courts. Figure 2 talks about 2025, the entire caseload for 5 categories, the percentage that we were appointed to and the numbers that we were appointed to. It says all 2024. That's a typo. It should be 2025. Apologize. It's figure 3, juvenile abuse and neglect. That's I call it DCFS court. Parents who are being essentially accused of abusing or neglecting their children. I've got the stats there. Once again, no surprises. We continue to represent around 95% of all the active respondents in those cases. Figure 4 talks about the number of pending cases in Peoria County. It speaks for itself. Figure 5, detention hearings handled in 2026. And that's now we're talking about the current quarter. This is January, February, March of 2026. They note that there were a total of 253 cases that were handled so far in courtroom 321, which is our main detention courtroom. Now, there, I do see a significant trend here, and I remember mentioning this last quarter when I gave my presentation. I saw a trend in the detention hearings. I was hoping it's not going to continue to significantly, but looking at the first quarter of this year, we can compare that to the last year. In last year, we had a total of 150 during the same quarter. So this year, 253. Last year, 150. It's an increase of 103 filings. It's an increase of 68.7%. And of those that we handled over last year, we handled 102 more in this quarter than we did the year before. So that represents a 69.4% increase of the number of detention hearings that we handled. And of course, that's significant due to potential staffing implications. So we'll be keeping a close eye on that for sure. Figure 6 talks about problem-solving courts. Again, self-explanatory. See the overall numbers in those problem-solving courtrooms. I've also included a running average for those courts. Figure 7, finally, the pending first-degree murder cases, which I started doing about a year ago. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 quarters worth of data there. And as of April 14th, you can see that Peoria County had 43 total first-degree murder cases pending, subtotal 42. Only one of those is going nowhere at this point. I think that person is on warrant status, if I remember correctly. Of the 42 cases, we're appointed 26 of them. It's about 62%. Non-PD has 16 of those cases. And again, on that figure I've got in that table, I have a running average. The average cases, first-degree murder cases pending in Peoria County will last 5 quarters. 43 on average will be pending. Of those, on average, 27 are appointed to the Peoria County Public Defender's Office. About 66%, 2/3 of those first-degree murder. And figure 8, just the filing statistics that I've always added as well to my reports. So with that said, if there are any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them for you.
Kevin, with these increases, can you tell us of any grants that you guys are working on to your office to kind of help address some of these increased workload cases that you're seeing?
Yeah, I mean, the immediate plan is to find more people. That's the issue. I think I've talked about it before. We have a logistical limitation. We have, particularly on Thursdays, all of the courtrooms that we service, whether they be criminal or juvenile, every single one of them is in session at the same time. And that absorbs all of our resources on Thursday, like everybody. And it becomes very problematic if somebody is sick or if 2 people are sick, then we just can't cover it. So when we talk about the increase in detention hearings, that means more and more that we have one individual from our office who the entire week has to dedicate their afternoons, that entire week, the on-call person, every day of the week. Has to dedicate themselves to those detention hearings because it's not just going to the detention hearing. We get the reports from the state's attorney's office, sometimes in the morning, more often than not, usually towards noon or maybe 1 o'clock, and they have to review all these reports from the detentions, and then they have to arrange with the jail to then talk to all the individuals out in jail, or people that we're going to be representing. Then, sometimes we may need to talk to the state's attorney's office. Then we actually have to go to the hearings and typically start around 3 o'clock. That's a process that pretty much takes all afternoon for our on-call person. When you face this potential trend of more and more of that going on, and then I start wondering, well, do I need to eventually have someone who's more of a dedicated person, like the state's attorney's office has? They have the charging division that Terry mentioned. Pretty much, that's one of its dedicated duties to do, as opposed to a rotating schedule that we have. So yeah, we've certainly been thinking about these issues, but it just comes down to we're going to try very hard to pick up some replace the attorneys we lost.
I think this is an ongoing issue and an understandable concern of yours. I assume you've talked to public defenders across the country, maybe in similar sized counties, to see what they've found that works.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been doing more and more of that recently because of my involvement with the task force and my involvement, particularly with the Fair Act Transition Committee. I've been exposed to a lot of different people across the state. And I have monthly chief public defender meetings. They're via Zoom. Typically, we have 20, 25 chief public defenders all throughout Illinois. We get together, we talk about these issues. And for sure, we've discussed the detention issues, the obligations that it creates, and the additional work that it creates. And people, they float ideas. And so we definitely are always on the lookout for new and fresh ideas and actually talk about it with other public defenders.
Well, that's great, and definitely congratulations on both of those appointments. So,
Thank you.
any questions for either Kevin or Kristen? All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for your time. And Becky from PCAPS, last but not least.
All right, good afternoon. So I'm going to start with just a quick few updates. The first one you'll see in our data for the first time ever, we have some numbers on our Finder to Foster program. It's a small number, it's only an 8, but we are darn excited about those 8 animals that didn't have to come into the shelter. We started the Finder to Foster program on about March 15th. And just in the month of March, in the back half of the month of March, we were able to find placement out in the community for 8 animals that never entered the shelter, but maybe for help with our spay neuter program. So that is super exciting, and one of the programs we want to talk about today and highlight that folks know that if you find an animal in the community, there is an opportunity to foster that animal. I think in the world of animal sheltering, we've done a great job over the years across the country teaching people that when you find a stray dog or cat, you bring it to the shelter and that's how you save it. And so we are working very hard to undo some of those very cultural norms and asking for the community's help with the animals that are homeless and maybe to foster if they're able to. So that's where we're going there. The other program I want to talk about is we have a vaccine and microchip clinic coming up on May 5th. So the Peoria Humane Society building is hosting a vaccine and microchip clinic that is with Dr. Davis, where we contract with Dr. Brown and Brown Animal Hospital. They send us Dr. Davis to do our surgeries, and twice a year he hosts this vaccine clinic for us with our team. It's going to be again on May 5th. 5-5 from 1 to 3. It's pretty easy to remember there. It's only $32. That includes your rabies vaccine, your microchip, and your county tag for the rabies registration. And if your pet's not spayed or neutered, it goes up to $52 because of the tag differential. But I don't know where you're going to find a better price than that. It's a great deal. The last update I want to give is going to be about our microchip scanning station. So this goes really nicely hand in hand with our Finder to Foster program, where people who find a lost pet can scan it with the community microchip scanning stations and hopefully find its way home. So no matter what time of the day or night, we can get these pets back home. PCAPS is microchipping about 4,000 animals a year in the community. And so we know those microchips are out there. We've been doing that for years and years. There are plenty of pets in this community with microchips, and we know that those microchip scanning stations are going to help keep them safe in their home. You will find one of those at Tower Park in Peoria Heights, and you will find the other at City Hall in West Peoria. We're excited for that. And that's all I have for the update.
Great. Any questions on PCAPS updates? All right. Nope. Did you have your hand up? No. All right. Well, thank you, and stay put, and we'll keep moving here. Can I get a motion for our first resolution? And the first one we have up is the trust. A motion from Member Phelan and Member Daly. Thank you. ahead.
All right, this is a $4,000 grant that we apply for every year. We have been generous enough to receive it again this year. This year we applied for community outreach initiatives, intake diversion, again on that same path of involving the community in the animal overpopulation problem. So can we give someone a tie-out to keep their pet in their yard instead of having to repair a fence or something of that nature? Can we give folks straw for their doghouse who might not otherwise have access to straw in the middle of the city or nowhere to get straw? And keep them compliant. And so all of these tools that our officers drive around with in their vehicles, they can use those and distribute those to folks who need them in order to encourage compliance and again to keep animals out of the shelter unnecessarily.
Any questions on this grant? All right, please vote. Motion passes. Thank you. We have one more for PCAPS. We have an update on with the fee changes we recently did. We need to update our ordinance. Can I get a motion? Member Phelan and Member Williams.
November, the county board voted to increase the fees to the community for PCAP services. These fees and the changes took place on January 1st and have been going great. We haven't received any complaints. Things have been going smoothly. What is before you today is an ordinance change to support that revised fee schedule. There is some language in the ordinance that talks about the fees, and we need to change that to bring it up to date.
This is merely housekeeping. This is not an additional fee increase. Any questions on this one? Okay, go ahead and vote. All right, that passes as well. Thank you, Becky. Do we have anybody for public comment? Miscellaneous? Yes, Member Williams.
Thank you. You have that flyer electronically, Becky, for the clinic?
Yes.
Yeah, could you send that out?
The vaccine clinic?
Yeah. Thank you.
Anything else for miscellaneous? All right, meeting adjourned.